This meeting is being recorded.
What's going on, everybody? Today on the Real Estate Blueprint Podcast, this is Austin, aka More Than an Agent, here with my Dominicana hermano, Jonathan Soto. Soto, what's up, boss?
How's it going, man? All is well. How are you, man?
The daily grind, man. As you can see, we're moving around like crazy. I'm actually at a closing, as we speak. But we got an awesome guest here today that I definitely wanted to make sure we kept our appointment. Got a chance to real briefly touch base at the developer event last week here in Newark, New Jersey, that brought out a bunch of rising and experienced developers to talk about what they're seeing in the markets, how to tap in, how to get started, and then how to build your business and your credibility on the developer side. And one topic, and really, which is the main reason why I definitely wanted to have this particular episode, because I almost feel like it kind of subsided because the market was doing so well. And they weren't rearing its ugly head like we saw in 2008. But today's guest considers himself as the short sale savage, and there's nobody better to bring onto the show to talk about short sales other than somebody that considers him a complete savage at it, rightfully so. And I want to be able to tap into that. Today's guest, and Matt, you're just gonna let me know how to pronounce your last name, but I think that I'm gonna get it on the first time.
Go ahead, go for it.
Ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to introduce you to Matt Merenoff. Did I get it right?
Fucking nailed it.
Beautiful. There it is. Matt, thank you for coming on the show. Thank you for taking the time. So, we're gonna dive into all of it. We're gonna dive into all of it. Just to start off, like, how the hell did you even get started, like, in short sales? Were you always doing short sales? Were you somewhere else and then transferred into short sales? Did you work for a bank and you saw what was happening? How'd you end up doing short sales?
But I'll give you the short version today. So, and I appreciate you guys having me on today, and hopefully your listeners will get a little bit of an education today, first and foremost. So I, believe it or not, I was a train operator. I worked for New Jersey Transit. Most people don't know that about me. And I was a rising star on my way up. And basically, I got sick and I wasn't able to fulfill my job any longer. I actually went out on disability in the early 2000s. And then I ended up working with my brother-in-law and sister-in-law in the mortgage industry. And they wanted to do a for sale by owner service and tie it in with the mortgage industry. And that was like the beginning of, me and sales and communicating with people and kind of like trying to help the underdog be able to find out what their options are, sell their properties, keep the real estate commissions if they could. If not, then obviously hand them off to an experienced real estate agent. Well, towards the end of that, I started to notice where I would speak with homeowners, husbands and wives, and they say, "Hey, can you get here before my husband would get home or my wife would get home?" And I'm like, "Well, it's kind of weird. I've always been told I got a sexy voice, but it was a little extreme." So, but it started to be the same thing over and over again towards the end of 2004. Our mortgage interest rate has gone up. When we purchased our property, we purchased a property we probably should not have purchased. And we were in an interest rate, which was 1%, AKA the tickler loan. And it would get somebody into a property, but nobody ever talked about when things started to move up. So they might have been like in a 3-1 or 5-1 arm. And then, their mortgage payment was going from like $1,600 a month to $2,700 a month. And they're like, "Hey, we can't afford this payment." So they would pay the difference on their credit cards, or some people were using their corporate credit cards and not telling their spouse. So I saw a little bit of a shift in the market. P.S. I get a phone call from a guy who runs a company where he would buy the rights to properties. And he said, hey, man, straight up, you're pissing off my partner. You're going in, you're helping these people sell their properties privately. And, you're all over the place. Your signs are all over the place. I want to meet you. Anyone who could piss off my partner is going to be a good friend of mine. So we went in, we sat down, we spoke. He said, look, I have a course going on right now that I'm going to be launching. And it was a couple $1,000s, and I'm a watch guy. He says, like, hey, what we could do is you give me the watch, take the class, and if it doesn't work out, I get to keep the watch. But if it does, I give you your watch back. And he had 30, 60-day window, bring a deal, whatever. So I said, nah, I'll cut you a check. So I took the class. I exceeded everything that was going on. He said, I want you to become, the short sale guy, the short sale negotiator. I'm like, well, what the hell is a short sale? And, we ended up getting involved in it. And he was like, you're going to be the short sale negotiator for my company, because he knew that I had collection experience way back when. And I have this theory that I run with, and it's kind of become my thing, where I tell people it's not a no until you get a restraining order. Not talking about relationships. I'm talking about not taking a no for an answer.
Right.
So he was like, now you're a negotiator. And at that time, when I started in early 2005, there really wasn't anything spectacular that was out there. And I had looked at some of these courses, and I'm saying to myself, but I know all this stuff. So I ran for about 2 years. And then in 2007, 2008, when things were really heating up, again, my partner at that time said, hey, look, man, why don't, are you ready to start teaching? And I said, yeah, that's cool. And he said, are you afraid to get on stage and speak in front of people? And I said, no, I'm not. I don't get stage fright. He goes, all right, cool. So that was really the beginning of between 2005 and 2008, where I helped as many people as I could become or also understand the practicality of how short sales worked, and to get from point A to get to Z for hopefully for potential closing. But what I did notice.
Perfect. Oh, go ahead.
What I did know. Go ahead.
I was gonna say perfect segue of when you get a chance, just explain exactly what a short sale is.
Yeah.
100%. So what I had noticed was people were taking the class, but everybody was failing. And it all comes down to this, dumb as a stump, call me whatever you want. I was horrible in school. I thought D was for diploma. But my whole thing is persistence. You got to follow up. And people didn't understand the concept of following up and the hot points, the hot topics. And what is a short sale? It's very simple. If you owe $500,000 to the bank and you sell the house for anything less than that $500 that's owed, that is considered what they call a short pay. But in today's market, it's a short sale. It used to be called a short pay. And if anybody's been involved in a short sale, is anything but short. So if it's $500,000 they owe plus legal, plus the taxes, the insurance, the PITI, the whole ball enchilada, and they also owe foreclosure fees as well. So that $500,000 could easily be $560,000, that they owe, plus whatever the back payments might be. So that $500 original amount might have depending on how late they are, could go up as high as 200 and some odd thousand. So 500 could easily turn into 700 and change. But if the property is only worth $450,000, the house will sell for whatever the value is in that time frame. And hopefully the difference of it, depending on your skill level, will be able to make the difference of it disappear. No deficiencies. If there's a 1099, which you will absolutely get from the bank, you have to have an accountant or a CPA that really understands what that financial crisis was for the homeowner and what type of tax bracket they're in. So that's really a synopsis of what a short sale is.
Mm-hmm. Gotcha.
So when you come in as a negotiator, what do you do? So you basically speak with the bank in behalf of the borrower, or just break that down for us, the negotiation piece?
So, 2005, when I started out in the industry, I always felt like there was something missing. Real estate agents, in my opinion, should stay in their lane, do their, the selling, the buying, the marketing, whatever it is. But they didn't do it. And then same thing with attorneys, like, they'll negotiate a contract, whatever it is. But the problem is that they were handing off to the paralegals. So what I built my core business on was being a loss mitigation company. So yeah, I'm a short sale expert. I'm recognized nationwide. But what I bring to the table is very easy. Everybody around me I look at it as someone who's involved in the transaction. I'm the guy in the middle of it all. So I can speak to whoever I want. If I want to talk to the seller, I speak with the seller. If I want to talk with the buyer, I speak with the buyer. If I want to talk to the buyer's attorney, seller's attorney on a conference call, I'm going to do it. If I need to speak with the mortgage company or mortgages or lien holders or judgment holders or whatever that's on the file, I get to speak with them. Everybody understands my role is to help the person who's in distress, the seller, for the person who wants to buy, who's the buyer. The buyer gets a great price on the property, and the seller, for all practical purposes, gets to walk away and move on with the rest of their life. That's the core purpose of why I started Real Estate Recovery Group. Real Estate Recovery Group, which nobody understood or understands, RRG is rules, regulations, and guidelines. And most people don't understand it. We're successful because we understand it.
Like, okay, so most of the times, right, and for clients and potential buyers, they tend to shy away from short sales because of the whole entire notion that it takes forever. Is that actually true, or is that because there are things that are things that are done wrong that force that transaction to take a year, 2 years? I remember being in one transaction, it took a year, and the loan provider or whoever was like the
Sure.
asset manager, it was absolutely terrible, like getting in communication, and everything was via electronic, and it just was a mess. You can never get them on the phone. Was that just that experience, or do you usually find that to be true, like going forward? And then Jonathan, go ahead with the next question. I'm going to step out really quickly, but go ahead. That's a great question.
I'm sorry, say what that question is, because I thought you were going to ask me another question.
No, I was telling Jonathan he's going to handle the next question because I'm just going to step out.
Okay, but that particular question, say that question again. You came in a little broken up.
Do you find that usually those transactions, short sales just are?
How long do they take?
Yeah, so if
is it
is it
doing something
reasoning
wrong?
behind that, how long does it take, or is it because of the person holding the lien, depending on them, or depending on the negotiator, or what's the actual process?
Well, it's a couple different things. You guys are opening up a can of worms. So let's break it down. Usually when the packet gets sent into the bank, the packet needs to be complete. If the packet's not complete, they've got 7 to 14 days to respond back regarding the packet. But first and foremost, an authorization has to go in. And if you don't have authorization and you send in a packet, they're going to say, well, we don't have authorization to speak with anybody regarding this packet. Usually, and nobody wants to hear this, it's going in the fucking shredder. Mm-hmm. So you got to start again. So what we've done is we've perfected as a performance model the follow-up, authorization, verifying the authorization, clarifying the authorization. Is there a point of contact who's been assigned to the file? What's the next steps? What information do you need? Knowing that the majority of the paperwork we already have, but maybe there's a specific packet of information that needs to be put together. Packet gets sent in. Now, what goes to the first lien holder might not go to the second, might not go to the third. What goes to the second and third might not go to the first. So it's all about clarification and following up and making sure who you speak with, you put the correct notes in your CRM system or whatever it is that you're working with, or a notepad, so you understand. Because if you start sending the incorrect information to different files, the file's never going to get off the ground. So I would say on average, And there's two types of short sales. And I don't give a shit when anybody says, if you haven't been doing it for 17 years, you don't understand this. There's an investor short sale, and then there's a retail short sale. Investor short sales may or may not take longer time. Retail short sales, for the most part, really all come down to two things: the value and what's the hardship. Let me scratch that. Value, hardship, and also, is the property deemed vacant? Because after a certain period of time, the bank might not want to work on the file because you might have to do a vacancy variance. And if you do that, that could blow the whole file right out of the water, and then nothing's going to happen with it. Ask me how I know that. I know it because we literally had to kill a deal yesterday, and it was a train wreck. But I did learn something very new off of it. I never look at a file that doesn't close as a wasted period of time. I look at it as it's a learning experience. Everybody looks at things differently. My team was deflated. Everybody's upset. Real estate agents upset. But it all comes down to, what is it that the servicing company is going to want and what the investor is going to want. And if you don't provide the correct documentation and have clarity, there's going to be an issue. This particular file, everything was put out there. There was complete transparency, but there was an issue with the variance, and the investors alone actually found out that the property they thought was deemed vacant, which it wasn't. And that caused a red flag with the investor. And ultimately, the investor shut it down. Then we sent out an email. We explained everything to them. File came back up. And then the servicing company said, no, we're not going to move forward. So it's a shame that stuff like that happens. But I will tell you, typically with files, they usually take roughly 3 months from beginning to end. That's listing a property, marketing the property, finding the buyer, sending in the correct documentation. And in some cases, we work the short sales in reverse. And we ask them for, information to figure out, maybe a cooperation of whatever the sales price might be. So there's a lot of things, and it all comes down to understanding the investors, the servicers, who's the actual lien holder of the actual loan itself, who owns the collateral paperwork. So there's a lot of information behind the scenes that most people don't go after. But I would say typically it's probably about 3 months from beginning to end to get a short sale.
That's on the retail side. How about the investor side?
I would say from the investor side, depending on how it is, knowing, a lot of the people on the other side, or as I call it, the dark side, it makes it easier for me because, we can just make a phone call and say, hey, look, this is the information, this is the packet. This is not going to go retail. The house is just too far gone. There's mold in the house. I don't know if it's going to fit within a specific loan program with an FHA product. Seems like, quote unquote, the listing agent or even the buyer is requesting somebody who has cash or hard money because they don't want to wait to find out with the mortgage. That's another thing. Most people don't realize just because somebody's a distressed seller doesn't necessarily mean that the bank is involved with picking who purchases the property. That is still the seller's choice to pick whoever they want. But it all comes down to what is the bank going to accept. It's, third-party approval, period. So if the bank doesn't approve what you're trying to do, you can try to sell your house for $1, but that doesn't mean that the house is going to sell for $1. It's always going to be the approval of the, whoever the lender is, the servicing company, the lien holder of the actual asset itself. But I would say if there's no shenanigans and it's a straight, they're not trying to beat it down, completely to death, it could run anywhere between 6 to maybe 7 months on the investor side. But the process itself is very streamlined. If the investor gives us the documentation that we need and we can provide it, we're always going to ask from the beginning, hey, look, if it goes, to an end user, we try to sell it to an end user, is the investor of the loan, or the investor friendly? Would they understand if it had to go to that direction? Because then that gives me clarity. I can report back, to the seller, to the, whoever the potential buyer might be, or who maybe, the real estate agents or the investors might be. Nobody really does what we do because they don't know either the questions to ask, or they're really uncertain of, what needs to be done. So that's literally throwing shit up against the wall and hoping to God that, that it
No,
goes.
it's like, I think you said you were in the mortgage business. It's like what I say, the mortgage business. If you put shit in, you're gonna get shit out. So you gotta really package the file, package the client to send it over to underwriting to get some good approval. So it sounds like something similar on your end. You have a nice package, you know how to package, depending on the lien type, depending on the buyer type, investor, retail, you know how to package each one. That's why your turnaround time that faster than someone that doesn't know how to package it, because
110%. Because I'll tell you right off the rip, like because I was representing the seller and going through the short sale with the seller, I was the one that was basically the point person for that, like, speaking with the bank. And I hated every single second of it. I hated every single second of it. One, because it was frustrating that, like, you can never, like, talk to anybody. Everybody was always, or it was always like via digital, and like not even like through like Gmail or anything like that. Like, you're using their platform, their servicing center, and you're sending the messages through there, right? So it's very frustrating. And once that frustration sat in, I was less motivated to continue to move things forward and so on and so forth, because I wasn't getting the results. And then it was like, just a cyclical wheel of less motivation, less motivation. And then finally, like, the only thing that really kicked me into high gear was just, looking at the board of like, all right, what closings are lined up? And it's like, all right, like this one, I don't want it to not close. So like, let me just dig deep and just do what I have to do. But by that time, so much time had gone by, where personally, I was just, and then I had, so I've done I've only done 2 short sales. And the other one, ironically, actually moved pretty quickly. We were done and closed in about 4 months. And the biggest difference or key, or what I believe fundamentally, was the fact that attorney's office was actually the one that's doing the negotiations with the bank. And I mean, it was night and day as far as an experience. And so I totally understand why, like, that is needed as a commodity, because I mean, it's just more stuff on somebody's to-do list that, like, if you're not sharp on it, and if you don't know what you're doing, you're going to wind up, delaying the process. You're going to wind up just making it a little bit more difficult. And so, yes, I can definitely attest to that.
Yeah, it's funny. So I have people that want to understand and learn what I do. So, I hate the terminology, can I pick your brain? I don't have hours and hours, or even a half hour really, for the most part, to try to train somebody. So when someone says to me, hey, can you just, can you slide me a free code so I can, get onto your online education platform? No. If somebody can't afford my book for whatever reason, my book's $20, but if you can't afford my book and you're willing to pay for the postage and the handling and stuff like that, yeah, I'm gonna give you a book. Like, I get it. Like, some people just don't have money. The online course was set up specifically so it's education on demand. Not everybody has the freedom like we do as entrepreneurs to be, up and about during the day, and we can, pencil in different things where, people have, like, the 9-to-5 grind, which I understand, but that shouldn't be a reason to hold somebody back from getting an education. I'm not even going to mention my book. I'm not even going to mention my education platform, because this interview is about me educating or answering whatever questions you want. I like to give back as much as I can, but at the same point, like, I'll give as much information as I can. But if somebody doesn't take that ball, pick it up, run with it, and move forward, I don't know what to tell you. Now, you had 2 experiences, Austin, with the short sales. If you knew that there was a company out there prior to last Sunday that could actually handle the process for you and basically report back to everybody else, my fee doesn't come out of your commission. My fee gets paid by the person who's buying the property. So for me, I tell people, listen, tell me what you want to pay. Give me your wish list. There's no guarantee it's going to happen. Just know that, you actually might have to come up on your price, but as long as it falls underneath that dollar amount where you want to be, then it really shouldn't be an issue. Some people look at it as, Why do you have to bring in a third party company? You're a realtor. Why can't you negotiate it? I'm telling you, and I'm training people, why would you want to work on or be shackled to a desk and negotiate a file where you could be out there helping the seller, helping the buyers, and
Exactly.
going out and trying to work with other buyers and sellers that are in distressful situations? Say, hey, look, I'm partnering up with Real Estate Recovery Group because they're adding value. And I'll go one step further, and you guys can ask me another question. For me, if you Google my name and my business, there's nothing bad, there's nothing negative out there, because I always try to do the right thing. And I think people see that.
Definitely. So I know you mentioned a lot about like '03, '04, '05 regarding ARMs and the payment jump, and that's why there was a lot of short sales during that time period. But right now we're in a different type of lending market. Are you finding it tougher to find short sales or easier, or how do you market for these?
So, after doing it for so long, I mean, the repeat business obviously is there.
Mhm.
I haven't really had to market so much. I will say, in it was about 7 years or so ago, I ended up going on social media because a friend of mine said, hey, it's cool. Everybody knows about you in Jersey, but nobody really knows about you like outside of New Jersey. Why don't you start marketing yourself? So I was like, well, as far as like visibility aspect of it. Um, but then I was like, am I going to be able to cater to these people? When I started going national with the 2015 idea, what I thought was there was a lot of people out there that were just stopped going after short sales. Let's fast forward now to 2019 to 2022. It's a shit show now across the board, because now I'm seeing newer people that have now fallen behind. They thought they were in a deferment program, but it was a forbearance program. They've already in the past had a modification. They don't qualify, blah, blah, blah. But people ask me that same question. Matt, it's a crazy market. People are overpaying for properties. Yeah, but if you haven't paid your mortgage in 5 years, and then you tack on to what's going on in the market right now, you don't think there's still people that are underwater on their houses? 100%. So, you got all those people out there that are trying to forecast what's going to happen over the next 2 years. I think the majority of the people are full of shit. I think they're just pulling on their social media and saying, hey, I'm amazing. I've got millions of followers and I know what I'm talking about. At the end of the day, the market's going to do what it's going to do. But I will say right now in 2022, it has a very familiar smell and taste to 2005. Now, is the market going to go haywire like 2007, 2008? No. I'm going to throw something at you that most people don't even know. Did you know that Governor Murphy's trying to pass a bill right now in the state of New Jersey? And if you do know it, cool. But if you don't know it, let me know. You don't know what the bill is.
Nope.
How scary is this? You are an investor and you're going to go to the auction and you're going to try to buy a property. Now, when you go to buy a property, you have to put 20% down, correct? At auction, and then you got 30 days to secure your financing. What if this passed? I don't believe it's gonna. They might do one county in the state of New Jersey, but I don't think it's gonna pass. What if you are a distressed homeowner and you didn't pay your mortgage for 8 years? Now your house goes to sheriff's sale. You as a homeowner have the right to go bid on your property, put 3.5% down, and you have 90 days to secure financing. And you could actually use one of your family members to help you. The only requirement is, from what I understand, is you have to stay in your property for 7 years. What the fuck is that? So you're telling me,
But that's I think depending what type of financing, conventional and qualified mortgages, they're not able to. It's called the bailout. You can't really buy a property from another family member that it's past due on payments.
but what
No,
if the law? But what if the law passes in New Jersey? That's number one. And number two, what if I told you that in that bill, it also says that that house cannot go for more than 50% of what's owed? Holy shit, right? So And the reason why
Is
they
that
want,
possible? How do you
but do you
how
know
do you
why?
have somebody's
That
equity?
won't pass because basically dicking over all the lenders and the people that hold the liens.
I'm sorry, Mr. Common Sense, but here's the other thing too, right? So let's say all that shit happens, right? Now, this is somebody who's a family member, helps you, they've got great credit. They're like, fuck it, yeah, I'll buy it. They're actually getting, or they could get, first right of refusal to buy that property. It's the most idiotic rule or bill that I've ever saw, that if they try to pass it, but they're even trying to do it in one county in New Jersey. I don't know what the county is, but hopefully, if they do it, this is going to be a shit show. And here's the reason why they're doing it. They want to avoid 2008.
And to be honest with you, that's it's been the whole thing of kicking the can down the line, right? Like just because at the end of the day, and I say this all the time, we are so scorned from 2008. It's like just getting out of the worst relationship, out of the worst relationship ever, and then now you're scared to date somebody else, or now it's harder for you to love somebody else. And in this particular case, it's like it was supposed to happen, not supposed to, but with everything with COVID, and they were allowing just forbearance, just deferments, just out the wazoo. Like plenty of people took advantage of it. Like obviously, just landlords getting sick for how they're handling everything on the tenant side. Just with New Jersey courts, the obviously with the state funding, running out like on a daily basis. I mean, it's everything that we've kicked down the can, like every can, like how far we've kicked this can down the road. I mean, it's going to be a really, really interesting, like next. And I've been telling my wife, like, heavily, like, especially in a tenant-friendly state, that like, they can really have a bunch of these landlords, by the balls, and they won't be able to do anything. And then if there's just a wave of inventory that comes from landlords trying to get out sooner rather than later, that's going to bring product to the market. Yeah. On top of what you just said, as far as all the forbearances that are now kicking back in, that's going to bring product to the market. And then God forbid, if they're upside down, that's definitely going to bring product to the market, right? So like, it's. I mean, so what do you think is like? We're estimating like, okay, no one knows what's going to happen. Like no one has the timing. Like it's hard to tell, right? But I think this year might be our last decent year, and I think all the mishaps and all the can kick in will really start to show itself over the course of these next like 2 to 3 years.
I want to ask you this question because you guys both seem like intelligent people. I could be wrong because some people think I'm intelligent, and I don't know how intelligent I am or not. But you call your bank, right? Governor Murphy or everybody and their mother was on TV saying, call your bank, talk to your bank, let them know you're having a hard time paying your mortgage. But think about it. It was so easy to go into a forbearance. It was so easy to do a deferment. Oh, you can't afford to pay your mortgage? No, I cannot. I don't have any money. Now, think about that. That's on a fucking recorded line. Now you're going back in and they're going, okay, Mr. Homeowner, we're going to try to see what we could do to modify your mortgage payment. Outstanding. Mm-hmm. Now they have to qualify for a modification. Now you haven't paid your mortgage in 2 years. You were gainfully employed. Your wife worked. You didn't pay your mortgage. But Mazel Tov, you got a brand new Range Rover, or you ended up getting a motorcycle or whatever it is that you do. The banks aren't dumb. So now you submit, what was your hardship? Can you submit your financials? Oh, you're a 1099? Okay. can you please provide the last 12 months? Oh, you're a W-2? Can you show me the last 3 months or whatever it is? Now, they're going to ask you, or they're going to say, we don't see a drop in your financials. What was the hardship? And I've already had a few of these phone calls already with people, and this is what they said to me. I'm fucked, aren't I? The answer is yes, you are fucked. Because that was for people that needed help. You, my friend or girl, committed fraud. There's nothing for them to do. They don't have to modify. Now they can say, okay, well, you owe us, let's say $2,000 a month times 2, you owe us $50,000. I ain't got it. Well, we got a problem now. So they may or may not want to help. It's up to them to see what they want to do. But they don't have to modify you. They don't have to continue forbearance. They don't have to give you a payment plan. They don't have to do deferment. And just so we're clear, the forbearances were set up for 3 months at a clip. But some people were taking it, obviously, for more than 3 months, and then they just couldn't pay it. And they were fortunate enough to go back, and they were saying on a recorded line, I can't pay my mortgage. Oh, the financial situation is still the same? Yeah, it's still the same. And they're going on vacation. Like they literally dug themselves into a deeper hole, right?
Yeah.
Now, the deferment side is, if you're fortunate, and I've only really seen the deferment side happen with credit union mortgages, where they'll take the difference of what you owe and they'll put it on the back of the mortgage. I haven't really seen anything too crazy with traditional, financing, meaning portfolio loans, servicing loans, stuff like that. FHA loans, people that were in FHA loans that purchased properties, yeah, those people were getting resets on their mortgages. But what if you can't prove that there was a financial hardship? And these are calls that I'm getting now because people are panicked. Interest rates are up. Well, I got news for you. If interest rates go up, what do you think your loan modification payment is going to be? It's not going to be lower. Your interest rates when you got your loan might have been lower when you got it, but that rate's gone. So let's say you got 3%, and now they're only offering you 4.5%. You're like, yeah, I can't afford that. You gotta sell your house.
Interesting.
Right, John.
Because luckily I never did that on any of my properties.
I don't even understand like why, like, it's because and it's crazy because you only see it like deferment, forbearance, this or that, and like what's the quote unquote difference? How which one has it tacked on to the back end and so on and so forth. And I remember hearing, I think some investors or some people were, the one that at least, or I think got the opportunity to tack it onto the back end, whatever they missed on a monthly basis. They were taking in more cash flow. And then their equity position went, just decreased a little bit. And I thought about it for 2 seconds, and I was like, like in the grand scheme of things, you're coming off on a monthly cash flow like that's much higher, and then you're just kind of taking it away from you on the back end when it as far as equity. And I thought for 2 seconds, I was like, is that a good idea? Like, do I just want more of like my money up front? I mean, obviously, residents and tenants are paying it, right? So I'm not, it's not my house that I'm living in or anything like that. So it's like, is that the move? And then, it completely, like, it was only 2 seconds, and I was just like, nah, like I'm not even like going to entertain that. Like, it just doesn't even make sense. Is that what's going to be what crashes our market next? Because that I can understand, right? Like, and I think everybody's trying to see what's going to be the factor, because I don't think it's going to be the supply from building that's going to do it, right? So where does this supply come from? And I think that the supply is going to come from everybody. Two things: everybody that did forbearance during 2020, all the landlords and so on and so forth that couldn't kick their tenants out. Even though I think that would have been grounds for product to come to the market now. because landlords still have tenants that haven't paid, you know, in 2 years or so. And I would think that they would bring product to the market now, but I'm not, you know, really seeing it. But I also realize that that could be the reason why is because they realize that it might not be able to sell because it has a tenant in there that's not paying. And anybody that's buying in New Jersey knows that, like, they're definitely not signing up to purchase a home with a tenant that's not paying, right? So that could be it as well, where landlords are maybe not putting product on the market because they know they're going to have a harder time, right? So yeah, it's interesting of like what will be that catalyst, but I do see it being that.
There's a lot of people now that were landlords that didn't have, as I call, professional management companies in place.
Mhm.
Those companies were helping tenants get grants to pay for their rent or help the landlord catch up with the back payments. So there's a lot of landlords who are out there still to this day. Oh, I never took advantage of it, or I didn't know about it, or no, I didn't have a management company. Like I didn't see the value in it, which sucks because those people are going to end up losing their investment properties. So some people are going to be helped and some people aren't going to be helped. It's, you know, it's the same thing. Like, you know, there's going to be people are so worried about COVID, and I don't know what the statistics are now, but everybody always says like, well, you know, if you get like, you know, bronchitis, pneumonia, or anything else, like, you know, just because, you know, COVID is so, you know, relevant and so right now, nobody talks about AIDS. People are still dying from AIDS. There's medication for it. You know, very fortunate that we're able to get the serums for the COVID. Some people are taking it, some people aren't. I know people had to leave their jobs because they were like, hey, if you don't get vaccinated, you're gonna lose your job. People left. They didn't want the crazy serum in them. And then, you know, you got conspiracy theory people that are out there. Yo, if I get the serum inside me, you know, they're gonna be able to track me. It's just like, what? So, you know, at the end of the day, like I try to like take the good and the bad with the phone calls that come in. And but I will say that it's going to add a different layer of distressed real estate and foreclosed properties. There was foreclosures, crazy foreclosures before the pandemic. Those foreclosures stopped. Now those foreclosures are coming. The evictions are coming. So there's a lot of stuff that's coming. So when someone says to me like, the market's so hot, I can't believe, you know, short sales, are they even really a thing? You know, I'm like, yeah, they are. Because I mean, I don't even have to, if I did no marketing until I retired, I would never have to market. I could pick and choose transactions. I get leads probably to the tune of, depending on the month, anywhere from 4 leads to upwards of 15 to 20 leads a month. That doesn't mean that I take every short sale on. Because remember, I have to make sure my pipeline is healthy, and I'm going to analyze something from the beginning. If somebody committed fraud, why do I want to be involved in that? If somebody legitimately couldn't pay their mortgage or something didn't work, I want to try to help those people. So I try to help as many of the underdogs as I can. Foreclosure should never be an option, but having the opportunity to find out what your options are. I offer loan modifications. I do settlements of mortgages. I help people with foreclosure prevention. But at the end of the day, the majority of those people, if I use 10 people that were in trouble, really only 2 people get to keep their house. That means 20%, 80% of those properties are either going to foreclosure because nobody wants to listen and they think Jesus Christ Almighty is going to help them, our Savior, with a checkbook. Jesus had a robe on. He had no pockets. There's no way to keep the checkbook. And I mean that jokingly, but at the same point, it's just to snap people back into a reality of
Right.
you got to do something. Doing nothing is not an option. And I'll tell you this, 9 out of 10 real estate agents will not go after distressed real estate. It is still a wide open market. And my wife said over the last 30 days, I feel like you're rebuilding your company. What's happening is I'm dealing with real estate agents that are now starting to try to get involved in short sales. They have no idea what they're doing. And I feel bad for sellers that are in distress or even buyers. They're going into contract or trying to buy something that maybe they don't have the opportunity to buy it.
I think they won like Well, here's an interesting question for anybody that's so an agent that's looking to break into the business, whether agent or whether investor, right? And they've heard all the pros of short sale, to rock bottom prices, great opportunities, great buying opportunities, so on and so forth. Do you recommend marketing to get started? Finding short sale leads, so on and so forth. Do you recommend, how would you recommend somebody start if they wanted to start, if they wanted to have short sales as a niche for their business? Or like if investors are just starting and they're like, okay, I want to start marketing so I can find some short sale opportunities. What do you suggest they do?
I'm going to tell you what I tell everybody every single day of my life. There's no reason to reinvent the wheel. If you want to go after distressed real estate, honestly, the best thing you could do is, if you don't want to go out and you don't want to go door knocking, see if you can get somebody's phone number and talk to them on a telephone. Let them know you're available. Key thing is, do you want to know your options? Because when you start breaking out into that bullshit sales pitch like everybody else, and you sound like a dirty, car salesman, they're not interested. They're hearing from those people. Talk to somebody like you want to be talked to if you were in a situation. If you can go door knocking and you have the stamina to knock on somebody's door, and it's a town where, quote unquote, you either need a permit or it's even legal, that's the best way to do it. Elbow to elbow, belly to belly, knee to knee. You're meeting with individuals that are in trouble. Don't talk to them like you have a dollar sign on your forehead and you want to get the property. It might not be a simple process. It may be a simple process, but I'll say this. And not many people take me up on this offer. And it still baffles me to this day. I tell people all the time, put me in the hot seat. I'm an 85, sometimes 90% close ratio within a half hour of speaking with someone and talking to them about what's happened over the course of their situation going late on your mortgage. When you have sympathy and you're talking to somebody and then they actually open up, just shut up. Listen to what they have to say. The majority of the call goes really quick. They either want to hear what you have to say, or they want to interrupt, or they want to tell you a story about how cousin Susie saved their house for 18 years and didn't have to pay their mortgage. Those fucking days are over. That shit's gone. So if I can help you weed someone out to find out whether they're real or not, and to be able to follow up with them, amazing. I did a training call last week with the guy. He said, hey, I don't have the money to pay you for coaching. Can I just grab you for an hour? Give me some information. 100%. We did it. He started utilizing. He's like, dude, and I'm giving this away for free. Know your options. Stop sounding like everybody else, and just say to somebody, what is it that you're looking to do? I saw your house was listed before. I don't know. Do you want to keep your house? Do you want to sell your house? Bottom line is, are you looking for options? Just shut up and hear what that person has to say. They're going to tell you what they want. It's really that easy.
And you just got to play matchmaking.
Yeah, definitely. So you mentioned door knocking and reaching out to people, but how do you find that list of clientels? That is it distressed or to target?
Very easy. You could go on the internet and you could look for pre-foreclosures in whatever town you live in. You could go on the internet. You could look up, lizpendants.net or .com or whatever the Liz Pendants sites are. Anything that says Liz Pendants. You could go to your county courthouse. Like, let's say, we're here in Jersey. So if you were to go to like the Bergen County courthouse, you could go to the sheriff's department and you could say, hey, can I get the list of properties that are going to be going to sale? So typically they'll give you the list. They have the list. I wouldn't say show up on a Friday, because that's when you're going to see a line of people going in there and they're going to be trying to sell the house. Now, if you're, I guess an ambulance chaser, you literally could just sit outside in your car and see these people come out knowing that they used an adjournment. I mean, those are low hanging fruit. That's like the end of the night at a club at 2:30, 3 o'clock in the morning. you know, when you started, that person had no interest in you, but by the time they leave, they're polluted. So you know they're gonna do whatever you want. You know, from a cheeseburger, they're gonna do whatever you want at that point. So I don't recommend that because those people obviously are heavily in distress. But there's nothing wrong with going to the courthouse and getting the sheriff's sale list and going online, finding out the properties list. It's very easy to do that, and or start, you know, hiring a service. There are plenty of virtual assistant services out there. I could always recommend a company if somebody wants somebody who's credible, or if somebody's looking to hire a VA. Like for me, like I don't make any money off of it, but at least look like a professional, act like a professional. You got to spend money to make money. I don't give a shit who you are, but if you're limited budget, go door knocking and go talk to people and say, hey, are you looking for options? And at the very least, my information's right here. It's MatthewMerenoff.com. I put my cell phone on there. That's my actual cell phone in that digital card for people to reach out to me. Now, people think I'm nuts because I do that, but let's just be clear. That's my work phone, and that's my personal phone. But I have two phones, but you will catch me because I usually have both phones with me. So I don't mind helping people, but those people gotta want to be helped. So if you're a real estate agent or you're an investor or you're an attorney that's having bad luck with going through short sales, just reach out to me and say, hey man, like if I have somebody and they're looking for options, or can you help me lock this transaction down to make it an actual listing? The answer is yes. But ultimately, what's going to happen is the homeowner really ready to sell their property? So these are some of the questions that got answered. And that's why I say, are you looking for options? Do you want to know your options? Because then they will start talking about their scenario. I need a little bit more time. My kid has to get through the next year of school. We have a transfer of job. You know, we're worried about, you know, the difference of what's owed on the property. Did you know if you do a job transfer, there's a chance that if you're being transferred by the company, that the company will actually pay the difference of what's owed on the mortgage? Did you know that?
Interesting.
So there's a lot of stuff that I talk about and I train people on that most people don't even know. And this is stuff that's not talked about on the internet, on YouTube. You can't Google it or whatever it is. These are trade secrets. I don't mind helping people understand, but they gotta want to take the steps and reach out to someone like myself. You don't even have to call me. Call somebody else. Not that I don't want the business, but I don't want it to be like, oh, here he goes, he's selling himself. I'm offering a service. You either want to be successful, help people out of a jam, and make a shitload of money. That's it.
That's as we kind of just start our descent here, and then we'll go into the core four, which are the four questions that we ask each and every guest. So what's next for you, and like where you're taking your business? Are you you know, is it just doubling and tripling down on everything that you're doing? Do you see yourself pivoting anywhere, like in the short sale space? What's next for you?
What I see there's a lot of individuals out there right now that are floundering around. They don't know what to do. When this market starts to shift as a real estate agent, I want someone to say, hey, if you still want to do sales and real estate, you want to stack up, kind of like having like annuities, why don't you reach out to Matt Merenoff? He's working with real estate agents. You get to pay you get your full real estate commission. And then the people on the other side, you know, whoever's buying the property, they're actually paying for their service. Now, some people don't look at that as a service that makes sense, but I will say that what happens if the market changes? What happens if interest rates don't come down? You know, what happens if we start going into the winter time and the real estate market starts to dry up? There's always going to be the distress side of it. Just because it's a distressed sale doesn't mean it's a short sale. So I'll talk to people and I'll find out the person has $200,000 in equity in their property. Wait a second. I don't understand. But you said it was a short sale. Oh, I guess I didn't qualify them, properly. So even in a regular real estate, people are always going to buy real estate. It's not going to be like, and I'm sorry to say it, I don't see how it's going to be able to continue the way it's been for the last 2 years, unless COVID comes back, with a vengeance, or some other bullshit virus comes out, I think people are going to start earning, and they're going to look for other ways to find out how to make money in real estate. And there's no shame in the game. Find out what your options are in other aspects of the game. I know people do wholesaling. Some real estate agents do wholesaling, right? I know they do retail. I know they do development. I know they do redevelopment. I know that they do rehab. So there's a lot of other avenues. Why not have something else that you could use, in your arson, is what I'm saying.
All right. Now, these are the 4 core questions we ask all of our guests. The first question is, what is your favorite aspect about real estate?
My favorite aspect is honestly to be able to work with people, educate them, show them what their options are, and not be like everybody else who I've seen in my space. For the majority of them are scumbags. Next question.
It's so, it's interesting. It's funny as you said it, because the deals that I always thought, when you hear about people pulling off these big deals and big numbers and profits and so on and so forth, like, you kind of get that sense that like you have to scam somebody over, or that you have to take advantage of somebody, or so on and so forth. The biggest like deals for me, like my best deals, ironically, the seller was so like, you don't have to like BS like your way. Like you said, the seller will tell you everything that they're looking for, and by that time they're like literally just begging you to help them at that part. Like, and those have been my best deals, and it's I couldn't say it better. Like, it's literally just helping, finding out what needs to be done, playing matchmaker, and whatever the goal is, just trying to bring that to fruition. So 100% agree. Question number 2, favorite business or personal development book? I know, every time I ask that question, I gotta like look at my bookcase. What we got? There we go.
I love it. Short sale savage.
There it is.
You buy the book on Amazon. I think this guy's a fucking genius.
He's a good looking guy too.
Talking about. I think I saw that guy.
You know what the funny thing is? I mean, look, the book is Short Sale Savage. You can buy it on Amazon. But in all sincerity, we talk about like these guys, and then they make a lot of money, and they show how much money they make. Show me all the checks in the world you want. That's bullshit. Show me the fucking HUD. Show me the HUD. Because the HUD's going to show the check breakdown. So let's say you made $80,000 in profit, but you get your $210,000 back, right? So 80, what is that, 290? So now you're like, oh, I made $290,000 on this close, and look at my check. Show me the HUD. Third question?
Question number 3. When you're not being a savage and helping people with short sales, what do you do in your spare time?
Unfortunately, I'm going to admit workaholic. So I usually work a lot. I like to spend time, obviously, with my kids, my wife. But admittedly, I'll be that guy that says, my kids suffer because I'm like a doctor. I'm on call 24/7, dealing with Eastern standpoint and obviously Pacific and everything else, across the United States. So if it's 8 o'clock, somewhere else, I might be getting a call at 12 o'clock here. But, I like to go out to dinner with the family. We like to play, there's a game called Italian Rummy. I like to watch movies with the kids, and we do a thing called money shots. So, where they have to hit certain points, on the driveway, and, and they get to hit the baskets and they make money. And then, they sound like, yeah. And then they're like degenerate gamblers. No disrespect. Anybody has a gambling problem, disclosure at the bottom here. But they're like, yeah, I got $50, double or nothing. I'm like, okay. And then they lose everything. Like, no. I'm like, no, that's it. That's the real world. You lost your money.
Yes.
That's dope.
Like to teach them life lessons.
Ain't no better way. I love it. Last but not least, Matt, where can people find you at?
I mean, honestly, the best thing to do really is to put in MatthewMerenoff.com. It's simple. It's easy. It's on the screen. If 3 people can see it, if they can't see it, and you want to do it later on, you want to put it on the screen. It's Matthew Merenoff. It's my name. You could also do a hashtag short sale savage, hashtag short sale savage. Those are really the best ways to look at what I'm doing, what I provide. And I also opened a free Facebook group about 2 years ago. We're very limited with the people that we have come into the group. I think we just cracked 2,100 people on the group. I looked the other day, all the people that we rejected. We rejected almost, I think, about almost 8,000 people that want to go into the group because they didn't answer the questions. I want people that follow direction to go into the group. That Facebook, so you get it. That Facebook that group on Facebook is called short, new word, sales, and then new word. The numeric numbers are 101. So it's short sales 101, and that there's a ton of video content on there, 30-second, a minute, maybe a minute and a half, and just some of the experiences I go through on a daily basis, to try to educate people, in my private group.
I love it, man. I know you're going to be at 𝐒𝐿 this upcoming weekend over at 𝐒𝐨𝐥𝐿 and DJ Envy's event. That's usually a really, really massive event. So definitely go kill it out there. Go raise more of the awareness. Because obviously, we might be looking at these opportunities to go after these short sales at a record-breaking number, as we get into what we will eventually find out of how bad has the damage been done over the past couple of years. And we're definitely looking forward to any of the events that, obviously, we're always going to events in the area just to, keep that momentum going forward. So I'm pretty sure we'll wind up crossing paths very, very, very soon.
100%.
Very, very
soon. And I don't want anybody to ever feel like, if I reach out to him, he's not going to call me back. If I message him, he's not going to call me back. If I email him, he's not going to call me back. If I private message him, he's not going to call me back. I'm the first line of defense. I message back. That's really me message back. If I talk to a client who's in trouble, that is me speaking to the client. And I encourage the investor or the real estate agent to be on that phone call to listen to what I have to say. It's not about me or you. It's really about the person that's in trouble. And as long as they understand they have options and they get out and avoid foreclosure, you can help them. There's nothing ashamed with making money off of it. That's it.
All love, man. Thank you so much for your time. I truly appreciate it, man.
And guys, remember, it's not a no
savage.
That's it.
Would you say, Matt?
It's not a no until you get a restraining order.
It's not listen, man, like it's and not that it's a buy or die scenario, right? But like in this particular case, on all of my follow-up complaints, on all of my text blasts, or anything like that, like it's until you make it very adamant that like you're either about to call the cops or send it to your attorney or whatever the case, like you will hear from me. You will hear from me. And if you don't say anything, that gives me permission to come back out and say something again. So until you make it very, 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 very clear, because everybody says no, everybody's trained to say no, everybody doesn't want to be bothered. I don't blame you, rightfully so. But eventually, you're going to wind up making a move, and I do want you to be thinking about me before you make that move.
Absolutely, 100%.
That is there. We're gonna put everything in the show notes. We'll grab everything for you, and then be on the lookout for our next event as well, which we're in the midst of in the early planning stages. But we really want to show New Jersey and the consumers, and the communities throughout New Jersey, like, hey, listen, like we're bringing amazing experts and real estate professionals to the forefront. So that way, any negative, connotations or anything that you're trying to do in your own individual business, like we want to bring, be the bridge between everybody that's doing it on a great scale in New Jersey to everyone that's looking to get into the business or even expand their business. So be on the lookout, because you definitely will be getting specific invites, because short sales is definitely something that's not talked about often, but is also talked about often, if that makes sense.
100%.
And we'll be here. This is the Real Estate Blueprint podcast, signing off.